Welcome to the Better Than Rich Show with your hosts, Andrew Biggs and Mike Abramowitz. The Better Than Rich Show helps ambitious leaders who are on a mission to leave the world better than they found it, change their perspective on what's important, increase their income and impact, and systemize their life and business. If you've ever struggled with finding your purpose, have felt disconnected or distracted, or found yourself going through the motions, this show will remind you that what you do matters and will re-inspire you to chase your highest dreams. It's time for you to become better than rich.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Better Than Rich Show. I'm your host, Andrew Biggs. I'm here with my co-host, Mike Abramowitz. Mike, how are we doing today?
Feeling good, feeling recharged. Getting back from an awesome trip, Colorado with the tribe, and getting back into the groove. So
that's good. I always feel so strange with that opening line. I'm like, what am I supposed to say? What should I? It's like that Ricky Bobby moment. Like, what am I supposed to do with my hands? Sort of thing. I'll have to come up with like a go-to phrase for our starting off point. But yeah, dude, tell me more about Colorado. What were you doing there, and what was the purpose of that trip?
Yeah, well, we definitely missed you. Would have been isolating.
I would have loved to be there for sure. Yeah,
it's a good experience. So we this was our first healthy CEO Dad Tribe retreat, and we've been doing our sessions over Zoom for the last couple years, I guess a year or so, and we were to finally get a live retreat with 5 of the men, and it was a really great experience to just unplug and just bond and have deep conversation, deep connection, just be able to be fully present and also explore a lot of cool adventure. We skied and ate great food, and it was just a really, really great time. Obviously I could go into more like specifics, but it was really an excellent time to just bond, because especially for men, I mean, sometimes, men will like go to like a football game and like, go to the party or go to a comedy show, or like it's a different type of activity. With this space, it was like sharing an Airbnb, and it was sitting on the couch, round table, and like sharing some of our like deepest passions and darkest places and how we kind of overcome them. And it was really, really special. So.
Absolutely. I mean, that definitely ties into, our topic for today, which is the power of community, and talking a little bit about what is community, how to find a great community, how to upgrade your community if you're not happy with where you're at right now. And if you don't feel like you have a circle, like Mike was just describing, a place where you can share your biggest triumphs and have a bunch of people cheering for you, and also kind of your darkest, deepest fears, and be held in those moments and be led through them, then this is the show for you today. And don't skip this one. I think you're really going to like it. But as a starting point, as a leaping off point, why is community important? What do you see there, Mike?
Well, I mean, for me specifically, I could talk to, and then, on a broad scale, but for me specifically, why community is important is because anytime I have found myself in the past where I felt stuck or felt like unsafe, or felt like I just didn't feel like I had, I don't know, I just didn't have like true friendship around me, or people I could trust, or like someone that can relate to me. Like anytime I had those valley moments of life, there was a craving for like a brotherhood, and there was a craving for people that have a common interest that I do, or can empathize with the experiences that I'm currently going through. And then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, it's when I'm thriving and having an awesome experience and celebrating something. It's like, you don't want to be too braggadocious with people that aren't, and you want to have people that don't, belittle you or make you feel weird for winning. So it's like having this safe place of individuals that are like-minded, that are able to empathize and understand, and are able to be with you for your highs and able to be with you for your lows. That's what was important for me to be for them. My needs are their needs are my needs. We can all show up for each other. And, that's important. I think it's very overlooked when it comes to friendships. I think especially with social media, it's very much like a surface level type of things, where it's like, Everyone wants to, chime in with their opinions, but I don't know. There's just something when it's real like-minded. My needs are your needs are my needs. We have a common unity amongst each other. Um, it's something more special. It's more unique. That's my take on it. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean that phrase is something we use a lot in our retreats when we put on events. My needs are your needs are my needs. And basically what that, philosophy kind of boils down to is we're all in this together. And as much as I want to make sure my needs are met, I also am going to be fully committed to making sure your needs are met. And as I do, we're both able to have our needs met in the process. And that's what really community is about, right? Community is about recognizing that we all have needs, right? Human beings are not made to be isolated. And that's why this huge experiment of COVID-19 and all these things was a failed one, in my opinion, with all the lockdowns and the ramifications, not just economically, but if we just look at the cost to like human flourishing in terms of, suicide rates and depression rates and anxiety and addiction issues and all these different things that have come out of isolating people and kind of moving them away from their communities. There's a huge cost to that. And so we have to fight against a culture that is consistently kind of moving us into isolation mode. Social media isolates you, your phone isolates you. So if you're not being extremely intentional these days, you're going to wake up one day and say, you know what? I don't really know that I have that many close friends. Maybe I have some friends, maybe I have some acquaintances, maybe I have someone I could call up and we can go grab a few margaritas on Taco Tuesdays together. But if the conversation is just about sports or it's just about, something frivolous or they're just making it all about themselves, they're a narcissistic person in the first place. And, it's like, man, is that really the type of relationships you're looking for? So this is a really good outline in terms of the importance of community. One of the biggest questions that I get asked a lot is just how do you find good people? Like, how do you actually look for people? And I would say in some ways, it's kind of like you have to give in order to receive, right? If you can start, there's kind of the old adage, right? I think it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, is whatever you're not receiving in your life, start giving more of it. And you'll start receiving more of it. If you're not getting love from your spouse, start showing love to your spouse. If you're not, having people be generous with you, start being generous with them. If you're not getting people's time, start giving more of your own. And all of a sudden, that reciprocal nature, whether it's the law of attraction or it's simply the law of reciprocity that all people want to uphold in a common society, will start to come your way. And so when it comes to community, if you want to have people have deep connections where you can share anything that's on your mind and be held and be seen and be appreciated for whatever you're going through or supported and challenged, why don't you start right where you're at with some people in your life and start doing it for them? Right? Now, by the way, when you first start doing this, that might be a little jarring, especially if all you ever talked about was the game last night or, what are you doing this weekend or the latest news or whatever. So it might be a little jarring to them for you to actually ask them an interesting question, for a change. But what I find is the right people will start to gravitate towards you when you do that. So if you go ask 10 people, like you set up 10 30-minute calls with people just to catch up and you have 10 interesting conversations, maybe 3 or 4 of them are going to really start to head in that vulnerable direction. And again, you're going to have to practice vulnerability yourself so that they can trust that they can open up to you. But if you do that, 3 or 4 are probably going to be really interesting. And those are the relationships you want to continue to pursue and maybe deepen in terms of community. So that's one tip I have in terms of how to begin to create that community. What other tips do you have, Mike, that come up for you on that topic?
The idea of what you just said about expressing vulnerability, and as long as you're willing to be vulnerable, they're going to reciprocate. And I think that especially with how many people cast judgment onto others because they don't have the same beliefs. So it's like a lot of times people bite their tongues. It's like, ooh, maybe I don't want to say that out loud because what if they're the opposition? It seems like there's almost like in our community of the United States, there's like these two polarities that are opposite. So it's like if I speak something that is what I think is my truth, but it's completely opposite of what somebody else thinks, now I have like this opponent that is casting judgment over me. So, my thought is how does someone offset that concern, that potential concern of being vulnerable? What are your thoughts on that? I have one or two, but I'm curious what shows up for you.
One thing that comes up for me is if I'm myself and I'm rejected for being myself, then that person who rejected me is probably not someone I'm interested in being in community with anyway. So as a starting point, that's my general approach is if I'm willing to open up and somebody judges me for that and therefore they don't, want to be in community with me, great. Now I know that they don't want to be in community with me right off the bat. I don't have to waste time is one thing I see. The other thing is like I in an ideal position, even if someone disagrees or has these other polarities, we have close friends here in town and they're very different from us in terms of how we see the world and our philosophies and our ideologies and all those different things. And but we get along great. Like they're just the sweetest people. We love hanging out together. Our kids get along. We get along. We have really interesting conversations. We don't always agree, but like we treat each other with respect, right? And I think in an ideal world, that's where we would want to go. And actually, that diversity of thought actually makes things more interesting, in my opinion. So I know I answered your question and also threw a segue in there,
No,
but
that's perfect. I mean,
yeah.
that's an excellent response because, ultimately, if you're not accepted for your authentic self, then you probably don't want to be in that community anyway. And that's a beautiful response. You said it way better than I could have. That's kind of where my thought was going is being authentic and is one of the most desirable characteristics when it comes to creating a community or being a part of a community. So if you're willing to express your authenticity by being vulnerable and being courageous to share openly, now you're inviting others into the space to do the same. And it's interesting when coming back to the tribe, I made the list of these people. So Lindsay and we went through a full cycle of IVF, and at 20 weeks. We delivered a sleeping baby, and it was a stillbirth, and we named her Hannah. It was really challenging, and Andrew was my coach during that whole time frame, and he was my rock, and I leaned on him a bunch, and just how to navigate through this really traumatizing experience, which was really tough. And then that December, it was actually interesting. I got drunk for the very first time ever in my whole life in 2019.
I remember that. Yeah.
Lindsay and I, I was like, all right, let's do this together. Got us a hotel room in Tampa and just like had a staycation and just got drunk, and just felt into all the feelings that went with the sadness. And that was not the answer by any means. But by December, I still didn't quite find like a purpose or direction. Like there was a lot of conflict and a lot of shame that was around, the whole situation. So I got a hotel for that night, a night in December. I said, Lindsay, I just need to like kind of go clear my head a little bit. I got a hotel room. I ordered a bunch of like unhealthy food, like wings and burgers, and just like sat in the hotel room, sulked away, no TV, no technology, no electronics, just me and my journal, just eating food and just writing. And during that journal activity that I did, something that came through for me was I need to have more men in my life that I can share these experiences with. Like I need a tribe of men that are on the same wavelength as me right now where I'm at. So that way, over the course of the next 10 years, I have almost like a support group. And what I came up with is my identity of a healthy CEO dad. This is who I want to be. This is who I ought to be. This is who I'm going to commit to be. I signed up to join another community that I paid several thousands of dollars to join. Got another mentor in the health space, and they really helped me a ton in 2020. And then I made this list of these men, and I interviewed them. I had a conversation. I remember I called up Doug, and I was like, Doug, this is not a normal call. This is a call because I want to talk to you about a tribe. I want to create. I want to create this tribe called the Healthy CEO Dads. And I had these parameters, like my needs are your needs and your needs are my needs. That want to grow personally, professionally, financially. We want to, be able to raise our families together. We're in committed relationships with significant others. We want to be dads one day. We want to, own multiple businesses or be involved and contribute to our communities, contribute to higher purpose. I said, "Is this sound like a tribe and a community you want to be part of?" And Doug was my first call. He's like, "Sign me up, 100%." And then, I remember, obviously I had a conversation with Andrew. I had a conversation with Patrick. I had a conversation with Dean. And, that was the first core group. And then I reached out to, I'm not going to name the names, but I reached out to someone else who was on the list. I had the same combo and I got rejected. And he was like, "Well, I already have a lot of different tribes I'm in, like different communities I'm in. I have a church group I'm in. I already am in another group. And like, sounds good, but maybe not right now." And I was like, "Ooh, I got rejected." And at first my ego was like, "What? You don't want to hang out with me?" But it kind of, it was no problem because I knew that if it wasn't aligned at this point in time, it wasn't going to be aligned over the course of the next 10 years. And, now we have our core group of 7 or 8 men that, I started this tribe. We did our first retreat. And it's just so beautiful to see like how this is just kind of evolving, where we have this safe, sacred space where we can just share openly and authentically. And I was kind of the heart of this, the nucleus of this. And that came from this deep valley that I was in with so much pain. So why is that relevant for anybody listening is because if you feel some sort of pain, more than likely, there's probably a whole community of people who could benefit from having others in that community of those that not only experience the pain, but they don't want to stay there. They are going to get on the other end of pain. They want to leverage the pain turn it into growth and take that growth and turn it into new opportunities and new experiences. And that's why it's so powerful to have this like-minded group of people called community around you. I've witnessed my wife do this. Lindsay's just been unbelievable with this. She's in all these different Facebook groups, from NICU moms to preemie moms to micro preemie moms to trach moms, to moms with the G tubes, or moms with babies with G tubes, vent dependent babies. Like she's in all these different communities, all these different Facebook groups, and she has her blog. She keeps her blog. She has these unbelievable women who have each other's back, that they all have this pain in common, but they also have this desire to help one another in common as well. And through pain is a great place to start. So if you think about what your deepest, darkest insecurities are, or your pain points, or those desperate moments, like there's so many other people that could probably benefit, if you're willing to courageously speak about it and open about it and be vulnerable about it and remember what your authentic truth is and get connected to it. And you might get rejected like I did. And you also might find your tribe of 7 or 8 awesome people that you can, build a community around.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that story, man. And thanks for sharing. And anyone who hasn't been following along with Mike's story, definitely check it out online, and you can learn all about it, including the journey of baby James, who's been this little miracle baby for you all. So, I really love what you were saying. And also, I think that there's a lot of people who, they're like, man, I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to randomly call people up and I'm going to just open up to them and hope that they reciprocate. Man, I don't know if that's, if I'm comfortable doing that. And hey, fair enough. The other thing I would say is, and this isn't intentionally kind of a plug for Better Than Rich and what we do. I think there's a lot of places out there like us. I will say, I think we're unique in many ways. But I think like when someone comes into the Better Than Rich community, for instance, we have certain rules of engagement. We have certain, objectives that we're trying to create at an event or within our community. And we're also attracting like-minded people. Generally, they're people who are either, at least have some things in common, right? Whether it's values in common, or they have desires in common and a vision in common. Maybe they're all business owners or at certain levels in their business or in their careers. And so when we attract these people in, there's commonality, right, that can be created. But then there's also rules of engagement. Those rules of engagement create this space for people to be safe, to be vulnerable, right? And how do you find a space that you can be vulnerable in. And if it needs to be facilitated, it needs to be facilitated, right? Come to one of our events. If you don't want to come to one of our events, go to Date with Destiny, go to some other event. I don't care. But find a space where you can be seen, be appreciated, where you could share literally anything, right? And I mean, I've had people literally share anything and everything with me on coaching calls, at events, different things like that. And when you do that, there's a power in that. I also think there's kind of like a trapped energy when you have a fear, when you have an insecurity, when you have, especially if you have like a secret, right? I remember one retreat, we did partner shares. It was like, I think it was like 7 minutes, and you had to like sit across from the other person. And one person, like basically their job was just to like hold space and like embody almost like this, as close as they could, like this divine, safe energy, right? So it's just like literally I was supposed to sit there for my partner for 7 minutes as they shared all their secrets with me. And of course we all agreed, hey, it's all confidential, right? We're not going to share any of these things. And then the partner did the same for me. And I shared anything that was on, that was my secrets or whatever. It's like the release of energy from that exercise, was really powerful. And of course, having the safety to do that, the trust in the other person takes a lot of guts. But when you do it, it's so worth it. So some of these things might sound like they're a little bit on the deep end of community. And hey, they are, right? I would love to hit a little bit on like maybe some of the more, lighter versions of community and networking and those sorts of things here in a bit. But I mean, there is a difference between networking and community though, right? So I would encourage you to try to find a place where you can be completely vulnerable, be completely yourself. Mike, what do you think?
Well, if we were going to be doing the light stuff, I mean, this wouldn't be the Better Than Rich show.
That's right.
We handle we go deep diving over here. So, I agree, so I think it was Brian Lum at one of our Better Than Rich events said, network is where you cast the net and put the people to work. He said, cast the net, put the people to work. Where community is common unity, where we have a lot of things in common and we unify and we create this unity together. And I thought it was really a clever way of just deciphering between the two. And I'm a part of a bunch of different communities, whether it be the Tony Robbins community, the fire walkers, 7 times walking across fire. And when I go to that space, it is a very beautiful, amazing community of all different types of people. And then I'm a part of Front Row Dads, and the Front Row Dads are family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. And that's such an awesome, beautiful community. The Man Talks Alliance is a beautiful community of sharing courageously and vulnerably as men. And these are beautiful spaces that I'm a part of. And they're also very intentional. And I think that's a part of it as well, Andrew, is that people want to be people need to be intentional with what are their needs. And I think sometimes people might not even know what their needs are. So how could they meet needs if they don't know what they are? So what would you say, Andrew, if like someone was curious on what are the needs that I need to meet in order for me to, start searching for this community? Like, how do I know this is what I need? Or how do I know these are the people I want to surround myself with? Or, what's some exploration that someone can kind of like go through and curiosities they can ask themselves on like, yeah, this is something I really need in my life.
Right. And a lot of times people don't even either recognize or want to admit that they have needs whatsoever. Right. So let alone try to identify the specific ones they are, who wants to feel needy, right? Like I'm sure there's no one listening to in their car right now or at the gym right now or winding down for the night or starting your morning or whatever you're doing right now on the other end of this, thinking, oh yeah, you know what I want to be? I want to be needy, right? And so it's painful sometimes to admit that we have needs, but we do, right? And so looking at pain points or places where you're lacking, whether it's connection, right, to others, maybe it's health and fitness, maybe it's accountability, maybe it's actual business strategy, maybe it's purpose, maybe it's meaning, and doing some reflection just to see like, where are my biggest pain points? Where are the biggest like frustration points? Where did I think I'd be further along than I am now? And just be honest with yourself, again, one of the biggest things that I see that stops people in this department is just being honest about where you're at and where you are frustrated, and then humble enough to kind of ask for help and go find help. So many people are kind of just lying to themselves, and they're lying to the world that, oh yeah, I got it all together. It's all perfect. It's all hunky dory. And they're just not willing to be humble. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, too often we want to celebrate. We want to stay in our strengths. It's like, this is where we're comfortable. This is where we're strong. So we'll stay in the surface level stuff. So a lot of times that surface level community forms around that. It's like, well, I'm really good at basketball, so let me just stick with this basketball community. Or like, I'm really good at, you fill in the blank. So they stay around that safe space where what you're saying here, I love what you said. Like, nobody wants to be needy, but yet we all have needs. And if we can be honest and truly open and authentic about what those needs are, well, now you're going to be surrounded around other people who are trying to satisfy those needs. And that brings up the curiosity of, well, if everyone's trying to be needy in this community, how is anything going to ever get done? Right. It's like, well, everyone's me, need. So that doesn't seem like a great community either. Right. And that's why we love the philosophy of my needs are your needs and your needs are my needs, because when you're at a valley, I might be at a peak, and vice versa. And if I know that you have the same needs at a valley that I had at my valley, but I've worked through that valley, or I'm on my journey, or I'm a couple steps ahead of you, I'm empathetic to grab you or extend a hand or to relate to you and to say, you can do this too. And then, because life is this ebbs and flows and ups and downs constantly. So if you can find other people who have those same needs, that's fantastic, because you're not always going to be in the same place that you're at. There are seasons of life. And while you're in a winter, someone else might be in their summer or fall. And when you're in your spring, they might be in a winter. And spring always follows winter. It always follows winter. And when you could surround yourself around other people, every one of them aren't going to be in winter at the exact same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, there's different types of communities. There's communities where there's a leadership, right? So there's, formal leadership, like the Better the Risk community. Mike and I lead that. So it's, you're receiving leadership from us. Our job is not to get our needs met through our paying clients, right? It doesn't mean that Mike and I don't have needs, but our job isn't to use your coaching calls to try to get our needs met. I think that'd be kind of weird, and I don't think people would like to pay to meet our needs. Is my take. So those spaces are specifically designed to meet your needs as clients. But there are other communities, right, where there isn't a stratification, you might say, right? And that was actually one of the stipulations in this Healthy CEO Dad Tribe is no one's allowed to be in charge. No one's allowed to sell the other person something. Like, it just kind of has to be, a safe place for people to feel, like a flat level of hierarchy. But so there's advantages to hierarchical, systems, and there's also an advantage to flat systems. And I love what you said about the flat systems, though, is it's kind of like in different topics or in different contexts or even just different time periods, right? I'm comfortable kind of being a follower, right? And falling into a follower position. And then I'm also comfortable kind of, leading from the front at times. It's like you need to be comfortable being above and below, right? And I think so many people in business, they're only comfortable when they're the alpha, when they're in charge, when they're the decisive person, and that's a useful trait. There's many people who aren't comfortable at all in that position, but you also have to be a good follower. And I think that the best leaders are also the best followers. So, thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, and being willing to learn. That's really what it comes down to. Like we were in Colorado, and I was kind of facilitating almost like a conversation over breakfast during our closing ceremonies of some business systemization tools and some things that I'm doing. And, everyone was really interested in the topic because, each of us are business owners in some capacity. And we're just really fascinated by the idea of automation, delegation, elimination, and how to make processes, a little bit more efficient. So we were jamming on it. And then Corey chimed in with something I really thought was so profound. And he was talking about like how you can listen to, he's very into the tech space. And he's like, I was listening to President Biden talk about something with cybersecurity. And he said, when he heard the president talk about this, he immediately went into the tech space and just kind of see what was happening in some of these companies. And boom, he immediately saw there was a trend of an uptick because people were now upping their cybersecurity to protect themselves. And I was like, wow, what an interesting idea of seeing trends in the marketplace, understanding tech, and understanding that you can create massive revenue shifts in a matter of minutes. And he's like, yeah, I swung 20 grand in a very short period of time. I was like, damn, that's pretty awesome. That's insightful. And it was a very short, small little conversation segment. But in that small, short conversation segment, not only did I learn something, but I was open to receiving this new lesson. And I think that's the beautiful part about being around like-minded individuals in a community is being willing to learn. So in the moment when I was teaching, I was also in the next moment ready to learn and ready to receive as well.
I love it. I love it, man. And by the way, if you are interested in joining Better Than Rich, we are going to be, putting out more content like this. You'll be getting newsletters in your inbox and these sorts of things. And eventually, I'm sure that we'll have, kind of like a community forum place. So if you're interested in the updates about that, make sure you go to betterthanrich.com and sign up for our mailing list so you can get those updates.
Yeah, and the Facebook group. We stream these live into the Facebook group as well. So I know many of you are watching us live right now. So, thanks for the comments and all the support for the show. And those of you that are catching the recording, of course, join us in the Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. I'd love to, if you feel like you're not getting your needs met or you have needs and you're curious to explore some of those needs, the Facebook group that we have is a great place for that. So you can post comments in there. You could send us, private messages. We'd love to read them. You can follow us on Instagram as well. And, we would love to jam with you on what are some of your wants or needs that you're not getting from other communities that maybe you would like to get from us and from Better Than Rich. We are continuing to grow right now. I think we're up to 200 or 300 members in our Facebook group. And I think, by the time, the next few weeks, next few months, I'm pretty confident we'll be able to hit over 1,000 members here. And as this grows, we'd love for you to be some of those, the front line and the first wave of what this community can grow into and what it will continue to evolve into. So join the Facebook group, join the conversation, share vulnerably, share openly. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mike. This was a fascinating discussion. Hope everyone listening really enjoyed it as much as I did. Have a great week ahead, and remember to leave today better than you found it. We'll see you next time on the Better Than Rich Show. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at betterthan_rich and join our Facebook group at the Better Than Rich Show. Thanks again for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, leave today better than you found it.